Hi, welcome to Food and Beverage Management, HOS2236, Semester 3. I'm David Keindel. I'm your professor for this course. Welcome. I'm doing this video to get us kicked off for week 1. I want to go through a few things and just get you comfortable and get you organized. So what I'd like to do today is just get you comfortable with the course layout. Some of you know me, of course, from previous courses that we've taken together. But I just want to walk you through sort of the four things, I guess, the layout of the course in Brightspace and some of the sort of expectations. I want to, again, because we're not in class together, I'm not teaching you this, I've broken the class down into a couple of segments. So I'll do a short video for each part of it to help you through week 1. And then in class next week, week 2, I'll meet you face-to-face and we'll be together. So for the first week, you need to sort of manage this on your own, take responsibility for your learning this week. Now, remember, this is a 4-hour course. It's a 3-in-1 hybrid. So it's 3 hours with me face-to-face and then 1 hour online hybrid. So that's how the workload will be sort of structured each week. We'll have work that's done in class, and then there'll be things that are carried over for you to continue to leverage or sort of scaffold us in to transition into the following week. So if you have any questions, you can email me. Some of you, of course, know me, and I'll be around. I'm working on another project. So I'm around the campus and I'll be online. So as always, in any of my classes, you can contact me if there's something you don't understand or are looking for some clarification on. All right, so let's just jump in. Let me share my screen here. And let's just take a look. So this is our layout, our course on the landing page on our section. And this is my first announcement, just asking you to take a look at the layout, get familiar with it, and you're going to find stuff, you're going to submit things to me, and then of course the grades are going to be there. The textbook is important. This is the textbook, and if you click on this link, which I'll do right now, let's see if it takes us there. It takes us to the actual publisher's site. So you can buy this text as a print book from them directly in a hardcover. You can also get ebooks by 120 days, 150 days, or the whole ebook for $48. And of course, you can buy it purchase the book through the college library. You can also purchase a used copy from maybe previous graduates, and you could buy one perhaps online. It's really important though you get the second Canadian edition. So it looks like this. You want to make sure you get this one because we'll be doing weekly activities starting this week, and you need to have the right one so that things match up. The questions and the assignments that I ask you to do are the same. All right, so you need to get that book as soon as you can. And the book is not cheap, but we will be using it for next semester as well in semester 4 when we do our business plan. There'll be parts of this. Similarly to the book that you purchased last semester for menu planning, we'll be using that book a little bit, but next semester and 4th semester we'll be using it as well. So those books will get used more than once within one course. There we go. So we're back into just the landing page for the course. All right, so then we're going to look at the weekly content, and you may be familiar with how I lay things out, some of you, but otherwise, if you're not, I just open up a weekly folder week by week as we require it. I don't open up a whole bunch of folders that you're kind of maybe overwhelm you. We'll just go week by week, and if you stick with me, we'll be fine together, and we'll work through this together. So course information, of course, this is the CSI, and if you open that up, it breaks down the weekly summary. That's the textbook we're using. This is a PC-based program. The culinary program is PC-based, not Mac-based. So if you're using a Mac, make sure you get the software that emulates Word documents in Excel, because that's what we'll be using extensively. And if you submit something that's not in the proper format, you'll get a 0. It has to be easy for me to open. So you want to make sure you use a PC or PC emulation in a Mac. And some of the work will not perform like Excel. You don't perform that in your cell phone. It's not very user-friendly. So you need to have your PC for this course up and running. And for face-to-face tests, you'll probably need a small calculator. And it doesn't have to be anything very elaborate. It could just be a simple calculator like this. You know, you can at the dollar store anywhere. Staples, not very expensive, but for some of the activities we'll do face-to-face in class, I'll be asking you to use that. So some of the work you'll be doing just longhand. for the first part of the semester. All right, so let's just jump back into, where were we here? Back into course information. So that's the layout and the breakdown of how marks are assigned. So it's important to read that CSI. The other part that's important in this course information section is the companion site. So with this textbook, we have a companion site. And if you click on that, it will take you to this site. Now, this is labeled the student companion site. You don't have to purchase the book to get this site. This is an open resource. Anybody can access it. So there's really no reason why, if you're assigned items out of this, that you can't do them, like the Excel sheets. The weekly activities will be doing some of the hybrid learning for that 1 hour out of class. But it's pretty straightforward to use this. You look at the chapter. So if we go in here and browse chapter 1, and it'll say, well, here's some PowerPoints. So actually, I created these PowerPoints for this textbook. I authored them, and they're being used. I use those ones in the class, and then I add a few more things to them, perhaps. Excel exercises. So here you would open this and we'll download, you could download the Excel sheet for you to do some of the activities, like I'll show you for next week. There's some flashcards, no grades for these. This is just for you to practice on. And there could be some practice quizzes. Again, these aren't linked to a Brightspace or for marks, but if you want to use them to help you practice things, they're there for you. And we'd go through that week by week, looking at this resource. So most weeks you'll need to access this. So if you go back to course information, this is one location where it is. You just click on that and it takes you to sites. There's no login, there's nothing to download, just an open resource site for you. And the last item here is the school policies, which you should be familiar with. And these speak about things like, I guess the one that most people are concerned about is late policies, how that works. So you can read through that and see how that's going to be applied within our course. All right, course contact professor, that's me. And again, my email is the best way to get a hold of me. I will be on campus some days, obviously for the Monday for our course. And you can certainly make an appointment. We can meet face-to-face while I'm on campus on Mondays. And but otherwise, email is a good way to contact me. So then we're going to jump into the weekly activities. So course documents. In week 1, I've broken it down into several sort of sections. Again, this is a 4-hour course, remember, 3 hours face-to-face with me and 1 hour without me. I've tried to structure this so that you can manage this on your own, and I'll try to explain each part or each sort of hour. I've broken the course down into sort of chunks, 3 chunks for face-to-face and 1 chunk for the hybrid component and what to do for next week. So we'll just walk through that process individually in a minute. But that's what you're going to do each week. Week 1 will open up, and then next week, week 2, and week 3, and week. So if we look in week 1, here's what we have open. Getting started. So if we click on that, getting started, here's the PowerPoints for class, which I'll walk through in a minute. And if you click on the study notes, it looks like this. And this is something that I've done for the first couple of weeks. I've done this for you. And it's basically just a summary. If I was a student and I was keeping track of things, this is sort of the laundry list of things that are important. Of course, everything's important, but there's a couple things that are really important. And in this case, for the first week, a couple things that are important is this link. That's the link to the textbook that we just looked at. So if you click on that link, it goes to the companion site, which I just took you to. So there's a second place that the companion link is provided. It's in course information, and it's also in the study guide for week 1. So that just takes you there. The second one is Restaurants Canada. It's our trade association, and quite a really good resource for information. And if you click on that link, it would take you to, where are we here? Food Service Canada. Nope, it'll take you here. And this is the landing page for information. And it gives you a lot of information, what's happening. And really, it's important because our industry is always changing, but it's a business perspective. There's some huge challenges. So understanding what's happening, I think, is going to be helpful. So this is a great place and get resources in understanding what's happening or what's happening in the industry. So this is our trade association for all food and beverage operations. And go back to that study guide. So there it is here. So things that you should understand from the first 2 weeks that we're together. Again, week 1 without me present, just this video. And then week 2 is you need to jump into chapter 1 of the textbook and understand some of the key terms, understand the different types of costs, and know how things are expressed. You can express sales in monetary terms, like what the total sales were in dollars, but also non-monetary, such as how many units were sold or how many customers you had. It's not about the money, it's how many people. So it's a count non-monetary, but then there's also the monetary way of counting. And you need to be familiar with just an income statement or budget. Income statement is a report, a summary of what's happened after the business period is over. So let's just say this is a month. So at the end of a month, this income statement would report how much money came in and where it was used with the business and how much was left over. A budget looks exactly the same, except the budget is let's forecast, let's plan what's going to happen. And we predict this is how much money is going to come in and how much we're going to spend on rent and expenses and how much money we're going to have left over as profit. So income statement and budget look very similar, but they have two different purposes. Remember, the budget is before, here's what we think is going to happen. An income statement or profit and loss statement is the other way it's called. That's after, say, the month is over or the year, and it's reporting on what actually happened. And then what we're supposed to do, obviously, we had a budget. We forecasted what we think would happen in our business. So we have their plan and then what actually happened, and we compare them and see where we went wrong or how close we were in our prediction, right? And that's a sign of a good manager, is that you can accurately predict what's going to happen and how much profit you're going to make. So this information is important whether you plan on running your own business and being the proprietor, or working for somebody else as a chef or as a kitchen manager, as a supervisor, because this information is all transferable. It's not only for people that are going to be entrepreneurs and self-employed. All these terms and this understanding is important for you as a cook, as you work your way up through the business world and into the locations you're working, whether it's a restaurant or a golf course or a resort or a hotel, convention center. You're going to have to understand some of these things, and you're going to hear them more and more. So I want you to start listening for them in your current business and ask questions as they arrive. And then what's due for next week is to complete these things, and I'll show you that in Brightspace in a second. So you really need to jump in and just to get excited about this. I know it's not the most exciting topic, but it's important that you understand this if you're going to plan on being successful in our business. So then the second part I just mentioned was what to do before next week. So the last item in our list, I'm going to go through these in a second. So we're getting started, what we just looked at, and then what's due before next class. And I'll always organize that with what we're doing in class, what needs to be done, and within class, and then what needs to be done for next week. It'll always be followed by what's due for next week. So you don't have to look around to find what does he want me to do, what assignments do, or what reading do I have to do. It'll always be at the bottom. So if we go back to week 1, there's this getting started, the Zen kitchen, test, understanding, and then it'll always be due before next class. It'll be the bottom thing, the quiz or whatever it is I want you to do for that 1 hour hybrid hour for next week. So in this section, we've got a quick video here, how to submit in Brightspace, in case you don't know how to do that. I would hope most of you know how to do that in second year, but in my case, I'm going to give you a form. I'll show you an example in a minute where you're going to take that form. It's a Word document, usually, could be an Excel sheet, but usually a Word document, and you'll just follow the instructions. So you'll save it locally, follow the instructions, complete the sections that are shaded, save it, make sure your name's on it, and then submit it back to me in the same location in Brightspace where you got it. So you take the blank, complete it, and submit it back to me so that I can grade it, or we can use it in class. So that's just a 2-minute video just to walk you through that if you're not clear. So jumping right in for what's planned at the end of today, week 1, what's due for next week. There's a quiz on chapter 1. So again, you need the textbook, but the concepts and the questions are pretty straightforward. If you don't have the book yet, I think you'll be no problem answering these questions, and you have 2 attempts. And if somebody else has a book already, you could share that for the time being until you get your own text. And then the second one thing that's due for the second week is some textbook questions. So there's Excel sheets I want you to complete, and I just want them handwritten. So I just want you to take a piece of paper and respond to the questions with your answers, and then take a picture of that and upload that image to me so I can see that you did it before class next week. That video sort of explains, this video here sort of explains that concept. In this case, follow these instructions. You're going to handwrite your responses, and then submit it to me midnight before next week, before week 2. So that way, when I come to class in the morning, I know you've done the work. And then I'm going to ask you to bring out your piece of paper, and we're going to correct it together and talk about it and see where what part we understand and what part perhaps we need to expand on a little bit. Okay, so that's important that you have that done each week, because we're going to use it to start the class the following week. All right. So follow the instructions. And then there's also, because to do this, you say, well, I don't have my textbook yet. What I did was I scanned the textbook pages that are appropriate. And so the information's here. So if you don't have the information, this will help you. So you'll need the companion site to get the Excel sheet. But I've actually given you the information. So if we open that up. So I went in the book and I circled the things I want you to do, and you just answer these questions. So for next week, what I want you to do is just do these quiz questions. You have 2 attempts to do it, and then complete this Excel activity. Take the information that I just showed you, follow the instructions, and just take a blank piece of paper. And you don't need to do Excel and download Excel and use Excel. Just take the information and calculate your answers longhand. I don't want you using Excel yet. I want you to show me that you can do it longhand and you understand the concept. We'll learn about Excel or apply Excel a little bit later on in the semester, but right now I just want you to just take a simple calculator and do the response for me. So that brings us to the PowerPoint, which I'll walk through quickly, and this will wrap up this part of the intro video for this, and then I'll have a couple of more segments for the continuing parts. So let me just open up this. So this chapter 1 in the textbook is about cost and sales concepts. And I want you to understand the very basics. It's going to be hard for us to continue into week 3 and 4 and chapters 4 and other parts of the textbook until you really understand the concepts within chapter 1 and 2. So you really need to apply yourself and learn the basic concepts. So my plan today is just to walk through these things. So the overview bright space we just did. I do take attendance. So in a face-to-face class, I will call your name out. We'll go through the roster at the beginning of class to make sure you're there. And the reason for that is simple. It's important for me that I get to know you and a little bit about you. But also partway through the semester, if you're having difficulty and you contact me or email me and say, Chef, I'm having a problem, I'm not doing so well, I might need some help. And I look at the attendance sheet and you've never been to class, I don't have any time for you. You haven't taken any time to help yourself. I got no time for you. You can take the course over again. However, if I look that you've been doing the work and you have been attending class, what can I do to help? I can meet you after class. We can do a Zoom session like this. Happy to help you in any way. If you've been applying yourself and you've been taking responsibility for your learning and taking this seriously, I'll meet you. But if you're expecting me to come all the way over to your side and do your work for you, that's not going to happen. You need to take ownership and we'll do it together, and I'll help you in every way I can. But if you have not been coming to class and not submitting your work, then I really don't have any time for that. My time is for those that are dedicated and interested in expanding their knowledge and their career growth. Okay. CSI, I just showed you that, and it breaks down the weekly activities of what we'll be doing and things that will be happening. I think it's important that you understand some of the basic terms. We'll walk through those very, very quickly right now. And the book, as I mentioned, is required because in semester 4, you will be using that quite extensively for a business plan. And each week, remember, there's a hybrid component. There's a 4-hour class, 3 with me, and then 1 hour outside of class without me that I have to organize and plan some activity for you to do. So remember to get that done. And deadlines are always, I don't think there's any exceptions. Deadlines are always for things to be submitted, are always midnight before the next class. And I do that on purpose. I do that so that I know when we start the class the next week that you've done your work and you're coming to class prepared, and we can hit the ground and have a really good conversation rather than you deciding to do it some other time. And when you come to class, you have no idea what the topic is. That's not very helpful to your learning and certainly to the class discussion and the class learning. So midnight it's due, and before class in the morning, anybody who hasn't done it just gets a 0. And then we go into class and continue the learning. So if you don't have it in, it's not good. Breakouts, we'll do some class breakout sessions and some activities. So learning objectives, I mean, we have to understand these terms and things that are happening, understand ratios. So this PowerPoint is posted for you. And some important concepts you understand are sales, expenses, and profits. So obviously the sales, the money that comes in, and we subtract the expenses, how much it cost us for everything. Whatever's left over is profit. But the funny part is that this doesn't happen by accident. You have to plan to make so much money. You have to plan how much you're going to spend, and then you're going to have to plan to have profit. And it's never going to work out perfectly. You may be sometimes pleasantly surprised that your expenses were a little lower and your profits higher, or worst case scenario, the opposite. You didn't make any money or much money. And that's a problem, because what's the point of being in business if you're not making any money and you're not able to pay your expenses, to pay your staff? So that concept is very important to understand. So you get the whole pie. That's how much money is coming in. We made $2,000 today. And out of the $2,000, we had to spend some piece of the pie went to pay for the cost of the goods, the food and beverage, the ingredients. And then another piece went to pay the staff, and another piece that went to pay the overhead. And what we have left over is this little piece of pie, and that would be our profit. So that's the concept we have to be very comfortable with. What is this food service manager really concerned with when it comes to what are the costs that they're concerned with? Of course, we're really concerned about how much money is coming in, the revenue that's coming in, but then we have to hang on to that and do something with it. So we're concerned about the cost of goods. How much does it cost us to buy the raw ingredients that we're then going to turn into the food that we sell our customers? So the cost of goods is important. It doesn't matter if it's food or wine or beer, it's still cost of goods. Then we have to worry about the cost of the beverage, the alcohol, the beer, the wine. We also have to worry about the labor costs, what we're paying our staff, whether it's salary or hourly. And we have to worry about our overhead costs. What does it cost us for rent and lighting and heating and cleaning and all those other things? And then when you take those things out of the picture, the money that came in, how much do you have left over? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't plan for that. They hope that once they pay all those things, there's something left over. But if you didn't plan to have something left over, there's not going to be anything left over. So it's really important that you plan to have a profit, not hopefully, cross your fingers that it happens. So it's important that you understand a couple of concepts. And again, this is on you this week to review, to study, and look through the information I'm providing with you to help you understand some of these basic concepts like this PowerPoint. So fixed costs are things that don't change. So we have costs every month that occur, like rent. And it doesn't matter whether we have a customer today or 2 customers or 20 customers, the rent is the same. So those are fixed costs. They don't change. It doesn't depend on how many customers we have. It's the same for the month. So that's a fixed cost. We have to pay that no matter what. So then we have variable costs. So variable costs are usually the cost of goods. The more customers I have and the more steaks they order, then the higher the cost of my steak is going to be, right? It's a variable cost. More customers, they eat steaks, then the cost of my steaks is going to be higher. Or if they drink beer, if none of my customers drink beer, my cost of beer is very low because I didn't sell any unless I sort of waste some. But it's a variable cost. So the more customers that I have, the more beer they buy and drink, then my cost is going to go up. So it's a variable cost. It goes up and down with the amount of customers we have. Now, can you think of another cost that's a variable cost that sort of would operate the same way? We have fixed costs that does not matter how many customers we have. And then we have variable costs that it does matter how many customers we have. It's going to impact. There's a relationship between them. Can you think of another thing? Another one? Wages. If you plan on a busy night, you're going to have more staff, more cooks, more servers, more dishwashers. So the more customers you have, the more wages you're going to pay. And if you, on a slow day, you're going to have don't expect a lot of business. You're going to have less staff. So the wages are tied. It's a variable cost too, because it varies. The amount you pay for your staff, how many staff you have on per day, per week, varies with how busy you are. So cost of goods is variable and the wages are variable. Now, this is called semi-variable because we could have a salary. So your chef could be a salaried position that you pay that chef, him or her, the same amount every 2 weeks. So it's fixed. It doesn't matter how many customers you have. So it's kind of a fixed cost, just like your rent, but your hourly staff depends on how you schedule them. So when you combine the two, salary and wages together, it's kind of semi-variable. You have a part that's fixed, your salary for your chef or your restaurant manager maybe. And then you have the variable part, which is the hourly wage. That's why it's referred to as semi-variable. And then we have controllable costs and non-controllable costs. So controllable costs are things that happen all the time. Those are usually considered sort of in after the wages part. And controllable costs are things that you have to pay no matter what. But you do have control about how much it's going to cost you. Probably the best one is utilities. we have to pay the gas or electricity bill to run our business. That's a given. There's no doubt we have to do that. But how much the electricity or gas bill is dependent, it's controllable on how much or how our staff act. They leave the lights on all the time, our electrical cost is going to be higher. But if they turn the lights off, it's going to be less. If we have the burners on the stove on full blast all the time, just because we want to have the stove ready, that's going to be higher than if we said, you know what, let's just turn the stoves on or the ovens when we need them. Let's have a plan. Well, now we can control that cost. We have to pay the utilities no matter what, but we do have some control about how much that costs. Now, the uncontrollable costs, non-controllable costs are things that are like fixed costs that you can't affect, you can't change. So things like insurance. You bought insurance for your building and you have to pay it. And you've signed a contract with your insurance company for the next 2 or 3 years, or even just for the year. So you can't change that every week. You can't call the insurance company and say, I'd like to pay less this month, or we're going to have less accidents this month, so can I pay less? No, that's a non-controllable cost. You've agreed to pay so much for your auto insurance or your home insurance or business insurance. It's not controllable. All right. So those are the two important things to consider. So there's more in this PowerPoint. I think I'm going to stop there. Now cover and do a separate video for a couple of those other elements in week 1.